Dr. Claude Ivernek wasn't surprised when Inga confessed that while she still cared for him, she was no longer in love with him. Their lack of closeness over the past few weeks had hinted at it. He looked over at his wife, who remained beautiful even after 24 years together, and silently concurred with her feelings. When he first met the German-born beauty in Cologne, Germany, he had fallen deeply in love with her. She had felt the same about the college student. Their relationship was one to envy, a love they believed would last forever, despite the changes brought by time and distance. Inga's next words caught the stoic engineer off guard when she declared her intention to move in with her lover. "What?" he exclaimed, his Germanic accent more pronounced. "You have a lover?" She sneered at him with disdain, then shrugged her shoulders. "Yes, and Jerome? He doesn't want kids," Inga stated matter-of-factly. But, you mean you're leaving Charles here? With me?" Claude asked, referring to their 4-year-old son. When Inga had discovered she was pregnant, it had been a complete surprise. Their youngest was already 15, seeking more freedom and money. Claude had been thrilled, seeing the new child as further confirmation of their enduring love. Inga's revelation that she didn't love him, had a lover, and was leaving Charles with him shook Claude. In less than a minute, his whole life had changed. "Yeah, maybe now you have to be a father, huh?" Inga remarked, her beautiful Aryan features shifting from a sneer to amusement. "I am his father. He comes to work with me every day, yes," Claude retorted. Since Claude Jr. and Heather were in their early 20s and attending university in Hamburg, custody of their oldest children wasn't an issue, but a lively 4-year-old boy needed both parents. With a final nod of farewell, Inga packed her 5 suitcases into her Mercedes-Benz and left their home. Claude, relying on his engineering acumen, promptly checked their bank accounts. Inga had already withdrawn 50%, so he closed the accounts and transferred the money to a new one. He also canceled their 3 credit cards. The next task was to reset the garage door's code and the alarm system's passcode. Then, he and Charles headed to Home Depot in Elgin, Louisiana, to buy new locks for all the doors. Charles always enjoyed visiting Home Depot with his dad. They would often pick up new magnets and steel screws and nuts and bolts for fun projects. This time, Claude purchased a large bolt, a 9-volt battery, and a spool of wire. Back home, father and son sat at the workbench in the 4-car garage of their Baylor Lake home, and Claude taught Charles how to make an electromagnet. Huh? Ha ha ha, how about that, huh, Charles? Claude chuckled as Charles marveled at their invention. "It can even pick up a wrench," Charles exclaimed at the magnet's power. After dinner, bath time, and a bedtime story, Charles settled in for the night. Claude looked down at his son and sighed. What kind of mother would leave her baby? He pondered to himself. Then he changed all the locks in the house. If Inga wanted to retrieve any forgotten items, she'd need to get in touch with him. "And Jerome? I hope you have plenty of money. She spends it fast," Claude remarked as he poured himself a scotch and soda. Jerome didn't have much money, and he realized that being involved with a 42-year-old woman with expensive tastes and no income wasn't something he wanted. Being a part-time lover to a beautiful woman had been fun and exciting. He didn't have to maintain a clean home, listen to her complaints, or deal with her personal items cluttering the bathroom. He only had to fulfill her desires, spend her husband's money, and then return to his own place while she prepared for her husband. Claude took action by informing Inga about canceling her cell phone service, automobile insurance, and luxury car payments. Jerome, her lover, indicated it was time for her to leave. Inga resisted the divorce, prompting her attorney, Nicole Banks, to request counseling. Counseling should have happened before she decided to be with another, Claude's attorney, Penny Jones, argued. However, Judge Marie Robichaud ordered a minimum of 8 counseling sessions, which Claude accepted with a shrug. Despite counseling, reconciliation seemed impossible. Claude wasn't willing to reconcile, and Inga was too proud to admit fault. Dr. Sylvia Hooperstein acknowledged there was no way forward for the couple. Nicole then sought custody of Charles Jonathan Ivernek for Ingrid. However, since Inga voluntarily left the child, Charles stayed with Claude while custody was contested in court. Inga demanded full custody, hefty child support, and the marital home, but she refused joint custody with Claude as the primary custodian. Thus, mediation was necessary for their custody battle. Claude didn't react smugly when granted primary custody or when Inga was denied child support. He also didn't celebrate being allowed to stay in the marital home, which would remain Charles's primary residence until he reached adulthood. "Forget about alimony," Nicole snapped when Inga brought it up. "You left the marital home willingly, and moved in with a lover. Courts don't reward infidelity, Mrs. Iverneck. At best, you'll receive 50% of marital assets. Nicole raised the issue of the thousands Inga owed for legal fees. Inga questioned why she should pay when Nicole hadn't achieved any of her goals. After his divorce, Claude met with Tuff Richards, CEO of Kendrick's Engineering, who had plans for a Whitehead generator on his desk. They discussed the schematics. It can be smaller, Tuff emphasized. Since Marcus died, they haven't secured the patent or made improvements. I'll get back to you, Claude promised. I want it smaller, more efficient, Tuff insisted. At home, Claude and his son played with Charles' toys, then experimented with the electromagnet. We harness the magnetic power, Claude mused. And there's a positive and a negative pole, Charles reminded him. You're a genius, boy, Claude laughed, kissing his son. That night, as Charles dreamed, Claude scribbled ideas. The next morning, Claude was still working when Corliss, the housekeeper, arrived. Oh, shoot, Claude chuckled. Miss Corliss, I'll give you $100 if you make Charles breakfast, okay? Grits all right? Corliss asked. Grits are fine, Claude agreed. Tuff examined Claude's sketches and the Whitehead generator schematics. Did you even look at these? Tuff asked, pointing to the Whitehead plans. No, this is a different type of generator, Claude explained. I'll say it is, Tuff concurred. Claude was taken aback when Tuff handed him a $100,000 bonus for creating the K.E. Charles generator. It warmed his heart that Tuff named the generator after Claude's son. Meanwhile, at Stepping Stone, Louisiana, Sue Lynn sat at The Bend, a sandy spot by a creek. Stepping Stone was mostly trailer parks, with just a few permanent fixtures like the grocery store and Dairy Queen. The high school consisted of 8 mobile buildings. In Penny Parish, Sweet Gum Paper Mill, and Hearst Women's Prison were the main job sources, but they weren't hiring. Sue Lynn, an 18-year-old graduate of JFK High School, pondered her future. Her friend Nicholas worked at Sweet Gum, while his girlfriend Angela awaited their baby. Joanne, now married to a woman, lived in Baylor Lake, Louisiana. Bobby was in jail, awaiting trial, with no public defender available. Eric had enlisted in the Marines and was stationed in Japan. Sue Lynn's best friend April had left for Jackson, Mississippi, seeking more opportunities. Sue Lynn wasn't sure if April was still there or had moved on. Sue Lynn observed a small branch drifting down the almost dry creek. With no rain lately, the creek was at risk of drying up completely. The branch navigated around the bend, snagging on rocks briefly before breaking free and continuing its journey toward a larger stream, eventually merging with the Mississippi River. While Sue Lynn was relieved she'd quit smoking due to its cost and unpleasantness, she missed having something to occupy her hands and mind. With a sigh, she stood up, brushed off her shorts, and headed home. Upon returning, her mother mentioned April's call, questioning why she was still around despite leaving for Jackson. Sue Lynn confirmed the call but hadn't received her number. Her mother, distracted by the television, mentioned April might call back later. Sue Lynn, familiar with April's unpredictable behavior, understood it could mean a short wait or no call at all, depending on April's state of mind. Later that day, April called again. Sue Lynn's mother handed her the phone, expressing disapproval of their friendship. Sue Lynn remained silent. Nothing she said could change her mother's perpetual disappointment, starting from Sue Lynn's birth. Born slightly too early to mark a significant moment and without being a son, she couldn't meet her father's expectations, adding to her parents' dissatisfaction. Hey there, what's going on? April shouted tipsily into the phone. Hey, where are you? Sue Lynn inquired. Oh, I'm in Oakleaf, Texas, I told you that, April chuckled. Oak? No, you didn't. Last I heard you were in Mississippi, Sue Lynn corrected her. April shared details about her life in Oakleaf. She was dancing at Tijuana Jack's, a gentleman's club, and enjoying it. She didn't have to pay for drinks, and usually made $300 or $400 each night. She was staying with another dancer in a rented house. You gotta come up here, girl, April excitedly suggested. I mean, seriously, with the kind of money they're giving me and you being prettier than me? Sue Lynn jotted down the phone number displayed on her phone and confirmed it with April. April drunkenly agreed that it might be her roommate's phone number. Waiting until her mother was in the bathroom, Sue Lynn called Greyhound to inquire about the ticket price to Oakleaf, Texas. She thanked the disinterested woman on the line and hung up just as her mother returned to the room. While Sue Lynn was gathering money for a bus ticket, Dr. Claude Iverneck confirmed that the car was in good condition. The seller, Jericho Tilley, claimed it ran just as well, if not better, than when it was first made. He assured Claude it was completely original. My older brother owned this bike, believe it or not. When he got deployed to Vietnam, he left it with me, threatening to harm me if anything happened to it. the man explained. And he never asked for it back? Claude inquired. He, lost both legs over there, Jericho said solemnly. Inga agreed to take Charles a day earlier. She truly cared for her son. Charles was excited about spending time with his mother. Tuff jokingly complained about Claude taking a rare day off from work, but acknowledged they could manage without him. While Claude was gathering cash, Sue Lin sat on a Greyhound bus, heading westward. She watched as Stepping Stone, Louisiana vanished from sight. During a 48-minute stop in Pinoak, Louisiana, Sue Lin grabbed a shrimp po' boy and a soda. She doused the sandwich in Crystal's hot sauce and happily ate it, paying little attention to the three young men trying to catch her eye. She briefly considered if her halter top and Daisy Duke shorts were appropriate travel attire. Ignoring the young men only encouraged them further. One of them approached her as she sat on a bench, eating. So, where are you headed? The young man asked nervously. Oakleaf Correctional. My husband's getting released tomorrow. He was in for killing one, but the last witness just passed, so there's no one left to testify. Sue Lin replied calmly. She wasn't sure if there was a place called Oakleaf Correctional, but she doubted the young man knew either. The young man muttered something in Spanish and hurried away from Sue Lin. She didn't smirk. She simply finished her sandwich and then used the restroom. 2 hours later, the bus arrived at the Degard Inn. Sue Lin looked around curiously. Her friend Joanne and Joanne's spouse, Joey, attended the University of Louisiana at Degard. Peering through the window, she wondered if the distant buildings were part of the college. As Dr. Claude Ivernek boarded the bus, he scanned the crowded seats, realizing there were no empty spots available. Take this seat, a pretty young blonde offered. Thanks, he replied, smiling at her. Being 6 feet, 3 inches tall, he towered over her as he stowed his small suitcase in the overhead compartment. He clutched his briefcase tightly as he settled in. Do you know where the university is? Sue Lin asked the tall, handsome man. Yeah, it's right over there, he said as the bus started moving. There? She pointed to the buildings she'd seen earlier. Yes, and that's where I work, Dr. Claude smiled, indicating the Kendricks Engineering Building. And over there, we're constructing a new building for hydraulic pumps and possibly the K.E. Charles generator. Where are you from? The girl inquired, smiling at his distinctive accent. I grew up in Tremblinka, Poland. Then my family moved to West Germany, Claude explained, smiling. He mentally kicked himself for forgetting his tablet at work. He had downloaded a book on perpetual motion and energy, and had hoped to study it further based on a hypothesis proposed at a symposium in Finland 3 years ago. So, how long have you been in America? Sue Lin asked. I moved here 2 years after graduating from the University of Hamburg, so it's been 23 years now, Claude admitted. I've lived in Louisiana my whole life, Sue Lin shared. By the time they arrived in Houston, Texas, Sue Lin was tired from the journey. She made her way to the departure area for the bus to Oakleaf. A Greyhound employee informed her that the bus from Shreveport would arrive in another 93 minutes. Your suitcase? Claude asked the girl. I don't have one, Sue Lin replied. Where are your clothes? Your makeup? Claude inquired. Makeup's right here, Sue Lin replied, showing him her small purse. Claude bought Sue Lin a sandwich and juice inside the large terminal. Then they sat on a bench in front of where their bus would be arriving and ate. By the time the bus pulled up, Sue Lin was asleep, leaning against Dr. Claude Ivernek. The driver smiled as the tall man woke up his companion. Your daughter seems worn out, huh? The driver remarked. It's been a long trip, Claude replied, not correcting the driver's assumption. Even though there were many available seats on the bus, Claude and Sue Lin chose to sit together. So, what's the plan when we get to Oakleaf? He asked her. He checked his watch. We should arrive around 11 o'clock, maybe later, he said. I don't know. I'll just call April and see what's up. Sue Lin shrugged. And if you can't reach her? Claude persisted. We'll figure it out. Sue Lin shrugged again. Sue Lin fell asleep as the bus rumbled toward Oakleaf, Texas. She leaned against Claude, snoring lightly. She didn't wake up when the bus made stops in Great Oak or Sweet Oak. Claude gently shook her awake when the driver announced their arrival in Oakleaf. Slowly stepping off the bus, she looked around for a payphone. I have a cell phone right here, Claude offered. Thanks, Sue Lin said. She dialed the number. It rang 4 times before April's roommate's answering machine picked up. Darn, Sue Lin muttered. Come on, I have a room here, Claude directed. Sue Lin followed without question. Claude checked in and took the electronic key from the bored-looking woman. I thought you said it was for a single occupant, the clerk remarked. I changed my mind, Claude replied. Man, I smell, Sue Lin murmured as they walked to room 133. It's all right, I'll cover the shower bill, Claude teased. Great, she smiled. Before Claude could mention that he needed to use the restroom first, Su Lin was already in the small, clean bathroom, turning on the taps and climbing into the deep tub. When Claude heard the shower stop, he waited a few moments. What are you going to sleep in? Claude asked through the closed door. My clothes, Su Lin replied as she dried her hair with a towel. Even the ones that smell from the road? Claude inquired. He pulled his undershirt out of his suitcase. Here, wear this, he insisted, passing the undershirt through the partially opened door. Cool, thanks, Su Lin said, taking the tank top. When Claude heard the sound of the motel's cheap hairdryer, he knocked on the bathroom door again. Su Lin, I really need to use the bathroom, he demanded. Oh, I'm so sorry, Su Lin exclaimed and opened the door. She walked out wearing his undershirt, which hung down to just above her knees. Claude paid it no mind. His need to urinate was urgent at this point. He hurried past her, relieved to finally empty his bladder. Afterward, he found his pajamas in his small suitcase. By the way, you're not getting this back, Su Lin teased, gesturing to the undershirt. Oh, I'll tickle you, Claude threatened, smiling. He showered quickly and changed into his pajamas. Then he brushed his teeth, wondering if Inga would remember to have Charles floss his teeth. The boy didn't enjoy it and would complain throughout, but their dentist stressed the importance of instilling healthy oral habits early on. What are you watching? Claude asked as he entered the main room. Heard that girl mention they had movies? Su Lin replied, sitting on the bed and watching XXX film. But this is obscene, Claude exclaimed. Su Lin hid the remote control behind her and smirked at his discomfort. She patted the bed next to her. Come on, watch this with me, she insisted. Oh my God, that's got to. That would hurt, wouldn't it? Su Lin asked, observing the rough scene. Su Lin, please change this, please, Claude pleaded. He had been a perfect gentleman so far. The young 18-year-old girl's attire had been too revealing. He would never allow his daughter Heather to dress like that. She had touched him, his arm, his hand, his leg as they rode the bus, as they talked. She had leaned heavily against him as she slept. He had resisted all temptation. He missed Inga, missed their intimacy. Claude turned his head to object to her leaning against him, and to the dirty movie they were watching. As he turned, Su Lin's hand brushed against his face and she leaned in. Thank you, Claude, she whispered, planting a kiss on his lips. Why thank you for what? Claude asked when she pulled back. For letting me stay here with you, for giving me your shirt, Su Lin whispered against his chest. You're welcome, he murmured. Su Lin, you don't have to. Claude started to protest. Wow, you're tall, Su Lin exclaimed, looking up and kissing him again, this time with more passion. Claude stopped resisting. Any reservations he had about being in a motel room with a girl younger than his daughter vanished. Fortunately, Su Lin reached climax quickly, and then they fell asleep. So, when are you going to your friends? Claude asked. Huh? Su Lin mumbled, waking up. Sunlight streamed into the room through a gap in the curtain. Claude was already dressed. Su Lin looked around, still groggy. When are you going to call your friend? Claude clarified. Oh, yeah, okay, Su Lin replied, her eyes filling with tears. Just let me use the bathroom and... What's wrong? Claude inquired. She got out of bed, still without clothes, and walked past him, trying to hold back her tears. What's the matter, Su Lin? Tell me, Claude asked gently, taking her hand. Nothing, she snapped. No, really, what's wrong? He pressed. Let me go. I need to use the bathroom, okay? Su Lin spat, heading towards the bathroom. He released her, and she marched into the small bathroom. Once inside, after taking care of business, she retrieved her halter top and shorts from the bathroom floor. After putting them on, she stomped back out, searching for her flip-flops. What's wrong now? Claude demanded, seizing her hand again. Nothing, Su Lin snapped. No, really, what's bothering you? He insisted, sitting on the bed. Nothing, okay, just let me go, she demanded. No, what's on your mind, Su Lin? Claude asked gently, pulling the struggling girl onto his lap. You were intimate with me, and I thought it meant something, you know? Su Lin suddenly cried. It did! It was wonderful, Claude admitted. I mean, it was wonderful, so wonderful. He gently caressed her tearful face and kissed her trembling lips. Then why were you in such a hurry to get rid of me? She sobbed, wrapping her arms around his torso and burying her head against his chest. Su Lin, dear, I wasn't, Claude assured her, gently rubbing her back and stroking her arm. But you came here to see your friend, right? Well, yeah, but that was before, Su Lin said. Before what? Claude inquired. Before we... You know, Su Lin stated. And now that we have? Claude asked. I, I don't know, Su Lin admitted. I'm buying a car. Do you want to come with me? Claude offered. Okay, Su Lin agreed. She made sure to grab the undershirt from the floor and stuffed it into her purse. After finding her flip-flops, she was ready to leave. Damn, is Inga taking forever? Claude remarked. Su Lin's eyes widened in surprise as she stared at Claude. You're Inga? You're married? She gasped in horror. Huh? Oh no, my dear Su Lin, Claude reassured her. No, we're divorced, yeah. It's been about 3 or 4 months now. Su Lin glanced at his ring finger, but saw no faint tan lines in the dimly lit room. Convinced, she took his hand. After a final glance around the room, Claude grabbed his suitcase and briefcase, and they exited. Thanks, everything okay? A clerk asked as Claude returned the room key. Yeah, everything's good, Claude confirmed. Now, where can we get breakfast? The Oak Leaf Diner is right across the street, Su Lin pointed out, peering through the glass doors at the truck stop. Perfect, Claude exclaimed. Now where's Big Street, 1217? Cross the street, 2 blocks left, take a right, and about 3 blocks down. Sugar, the woman directed, pointing. Give me the suitcase, Su Lin insisted as they left the motel. I'll carry it. Good, Claude agreed. At the diner, Claude called Jericho Tilly to inform him they were having breakfast before heading to the location. Just knock on the side door, Jericho instructed. Su Lin ordered steak and eggs, amusing Claude when she finished her entire breakfast, and even stole a biscuit from his plate. Then she excused herself to the restroom. As she came back, Claude observed a hefty trucker trying to stop Su Lin. Inga might have paused and flirted lightly. She would have also kept an eye on Claude to see if she was upsetting him. If Claude showed signs of being upset, Inga would have increased her flirting. She played a lot of games like that, Claude mused to himself. Su Lin didn't hesitate. The trucker extended his hand to block her path, but Su Lin just slipped under his arm and kept walking. Some people chuckled. The trucker turned and glared at Su Lin, including Claude in his angry stare. Let it go, Jimbo. She didn't want to talk to you, the waitress instructed the upset man. Damn bitch, Jimbo grumbled as he stomped away. Ready to go? Su Lin asked after finishing her coffee. Yep, Claude confirmed. They strolled along the bustling street, then turned onto a side street. Claude couldn't help but notice that city blocks in Texas seemed much longer than those in Louisiana. And here we are, Claude said, checking the mailbox. Thank goodness my legs are about to fall off, Su Lin chuckled. How far do you think we've walked? Yeah, these flip-flops aren't great for walking, Claude agreed. Jericho Tilly led the couple to the garage at the back of the property. Claude smirked. Jericho was talking to him, but he couldn't take his eyes off Su Lin. Wow! Su Lin exclaimed when Jericho unveiled the car. It was white with a red vinyl convertible top and seats. Wow, this thing is huge. The hood alone must be a mile long, huh? Su Lin remarked, eyeing the 1964 Chevrolet Corvette. I came to America, and my next-door neighbor had one just like this, Claude said, admiring the car. I told myself I'd get one someday. Well, Claude, this Corvette can be yours if the price is right, Jericho said, mimicking the game show announcer from The Price is Right. 69,000, right? Claude asked. Exactly, Jericho confirmed, watching as Su Lin leaned over to look inside the car. So, why are you selling this? Su Lin suddenly inquired. Well, the doctor says I've got cancer, Jericho admitted, and I've got 2 boys. If I leave the car to one, the other's going to be upset. So this way I can just give them each half the money and let them buy whatever they want. Sorry to hear about the cancer, Su Lin said softly, placing a comforting hand on Jericho's arm. Yeah, well, it happens, right? Jericho smiled. Can I test drive? Claude requested. Sure thing, I'd expect you to, Jericho agreed. Claude handed his briefcase to Su Lin, grinning widely as he opened the car door and slid into the low-slung automobile. He flexed his hands on the steering wheel a few times, then started the car. After a moment of listening to the finely tuned engine, he eased the car out of the garage and drove away. You want a cup of coffee or something? Jericho offered Su Lin. Just don't make that hazelnut stuff, okay? Su Lin requested, following Jericho to the house. Hey, Dad, some guy just drove off in damn that Corvette, a man in his early 30s exclaimed, then paused when he saw Su Lin. My oldest, Elroy Tilly, Jericho introduced the young man, who was now flexing his bare chest. Hey, Su Lin greeted him. And, no ma'am, this is honest-to-goodness real coffee, Jericho assured them as he poured each of them a mug of the thick brew. Oh, so about the car? Elroy inquired, tearing his eyes away from Su Lin. Her daddy's gonna buy it, Jericho explained. Oh no, he's not my daddy, Su Lin corrected with a smile as she blew on her coffee. He's my man. Wow, Jericho chuckled. You, that vet, and a cold glass of water would be enough to give him a heart attack, huh? 10 minutes later, Claude pulled up to the house in the car. He stepped out reluctantly and knocked on the side door, which Su Lin opened. So, Daddy, do you like it? She asked. Yeah, I like it. I love it, Claude agreed. Claude entered the house and briefly narrowed his eyes at the sight of Elroy flexing shirtless, but then he softened. Su Lin seemed oblivious to the young man's antics. Got the briefcase? Claude inquired. Su Lin retrieved it from under the kitchen table and handed it to him. Jericho invited Claude to sit down. Su Lin sat to Claude's right and rested her hand on his arm. Elroy left the kitchen. Well, all right, just need to sign some papers and you all can be on your way, Jericho said. Got the money? Claude opened the briefcase, revealing $69,000 in $100 bills. Jericho counted it out slowly. Oh, and the tarp? It's a custom-fitted cover, Jericho added. Was going to sell it on eBay, but your girlfriend here convinced me to throw it in with the car. Told him he didn't know how long it'd take to sell that thing, Su Lin told Claude. My girlfriend? She's sharp, Claude remarked as he read the sales contract. Thank you, Su Lin said, resting her head on Claude's shoulder. 68 and 69, Jericho counted. I'll just sign this title, and you, my friend, are the proud owner of a 1964 Corvette, one of the finest machines ever built. Let's go, girlfriend, Claude said, grabbing his empty briefcase and suitcase. I'll get the car cover, Su Lin said, opening the kitchen door. Brother, how did you... dang, Jericho praised as they watched Su Lin head to the garage. Don't drag it, Claude cautioned. Well, obviously, Su Lin called back as she started rolling the cover into a ball. How did I find her? Claude mused, then shrugged. Su Lin got emotional when Claude suggested calling April. Isn't it silly to come all this way and not see your friend? Claude reasoned as they drove out of Jericho's driveway. Yeah, you're right, Su Lin agreed. What time is it? April's roommate snapped when she answered the phone. Is April there? Su Lin asked calmly. She's sleeping, what do you want? The roommate snapped before hanging up. Su Lin, she's not home, Su Lin said, handing Claude his phone. Let's go. Claude touched her face lightly. Su Lin looked up at him with shiny eyes. Okay, where do you want to go? He asked softly. She lowered her head and brushed his hand away when he touched her face again. Stepping stone, I guess, she mumbled. Do you really want to go there? Claude inquired. No way, Su Lin choked. Why do you think I jumped on the bus? Claude remained silent for a moment before starting the car and navigating through the streets of Oakleaf to find the interstate. By the time they reached Lake Charles, Louisiana, Su Lin was smiling. Claude had put the top down, and she enjoyed the wind blowing through her hands. Convertible suits a pretty blonde like you? Claude chuckled as they arrived at the Cracker Barrel in Lake Charles. Once again, Su Lin amused Claude as she devoured a sunrise sampler breakfast and nibbled on his catfish dinner, accompanied by 2 orange cream sodas. I need to use the restroom, she suddenly announced. I'm not surprised. You'll burst if you don't, Claude teased, and she grinned at him. Wow, I was jealous when I saw the car, another man said as Claude and Su Lin approached the Corvette. But looking at her, now I'm really jealous. Su Lin smiled but didn't respond to the man. When Claude got into the driver's seat, she pulled him in for a passionate kiss. That'll really make him jealous, she whispered after releasing Claude's lips. Claude grinned and revved up the powerful engine. Then, acknowledging Su Lin's admiration, he drove off. Su Lin glanced at Claude curiously as he exited onto DeGard from I-10. Claude navigated the streets until he stopped in front of a large house. Where are we? Su Lin inquired. My place, Claude replied as he exited the running car. He entered a code, then drove the car into the garage as the door lifted. After getting out again, he opened Su Lin's door. Welcome home, Su Lin, he greeted. Taking his hand, she followed him to the garage door, which he closed with another code. Then he entered another code, unlocking the door to his home's kitchen and guiding her inside. Su Lin explored, smiling at Charles's booster seat, and trailed Claude to the living room. Once more she glanced around, noting the large TV, and teased Claude about watching similar movies to the previous night. What movies? Claude asked. The ones like we watched last night with the action, Su Lin giggled. Do we really need movies? We have the real deal right here, Claude remarked. Yeah, but they're entertaining, Su Lin insisted. So where's our room? Aren't you tired? Yeah, I am, Claude admitted. Su Lin took his hand, and he led her to his bedroom. She eyed his California king bed and joked about getting lost in it. That's north, that's south, and these are east and west, Claude pointed out the directions. If you get lost, just call out north, south, east, or west, and I'll find you, okay? Okay, Su Lin giggled, removing her shorts and halter top. The way we make love, she echoed. I like that. The way we make love. Claude realized that apart from the tank top, Su Lin had only one outfit, which wasn't suitable for many places in and around DeGard, Louisiana. At 18, she was old enough to work at places like the Dead End Bar, but not old enough to eat there, which seemed ridiculous to Claude. At 4 o'clock, Claude woke Su Lin up, and she smiled when he told her they had somewhere to go. Despite her attempt to reach for him, he gently pushed her hand away. Get dressed. We're heading out, he instructed. Sure, okay, she shrugged. After dressing, she spent a few minutes brushing out her tangled blonde hair. Claude, already dressed in slacks and a dress shirt, pulled on his shoes as she finished styling her hair into a ponytail. I must be crazy, Claude muttered to himself as the young-looking girl followed him to the garage. He grabbed the remote control for his pickup truck and placed it on the visor of his classic Corvette. So, where are we going? She asked, leaning against him. First, we're going to Abdul's. You need some clothes, Claude declared. He expected excitement, but then he remembered Su Lin might not know about Abdul's or Babbage's, the other department store in the area. Inside Abdul's, Su Lin looked at a pair of jeans, held them up, and shook her head. She then looked around and asked Claude if there was a petite section, because none of the clothes seemed to fit her. A saleswoman directed Su Lin to the petite section, and she nodded in satisfaction before looking back at Claude. What are we getting? She asked. Well, first we need something for dining out. Then maybe something casual to relax in at home, he explained. I've got your shirt, Su Lin pointed out. And I have a 4-year-old boy, Claude added. Oh, I see, Su Lin replied, understanding. She selected 2 blouses, 3 pairs of shorts, 2 pairs of jeans, a button-up blouse, and a few t-shirts. Additionally, she chose 3 dresses and a cute nightgown, along with some panties and 3 bras. Su Lin also delighted Claude by grabbing 2 packages of pantyhose, knowing about his pantyhose fetish. Inga rarely indulged this desire, preferring bare legs most of the time. Afterwards, Su Lin dragged him to the shoe section and picked out 2 pairs, a pair of dress pumps and a pair of tennis shoes. Thanks, baby, Su Lin said simply as they loaded their purchases into the car trunk. Well, I'm just glad you didn't see the jewelry counter, Claude half-joked. Oh, where was it? Su Lin asked, eyes widening. Nowhere, forget it. I was just kidding. Abdul's doesn't have a jewelry counter, Claude quickly clarified. So, are we going out to eat now? Su Lin asked. Yeah, we'll head back home. You can change, then we'll go, Claude replied. What? Open the trunk again, Su Lin said. She grabbed a dress, a pack of pantyhose, and a bra. To Claude's amazement and delight, she dropped her halter top into the car seat, shrugged into the bra, then pulled on the dress. She also discarded her shorts into the seat and wriggled into the pantyhose. Get my shoes, she instructed before settling into the car. All right then, let's head out for dinner, Claude agreed. Thanks again, baby, Su Lin said as Claude joined her in the car. Side-by-Side Steakhouse had a 15-minute wait. Su Lin leaned against Claude, swaying slightly as they waited. Before long, the hostess escorted them to their table, wished them a good meal, and departed. Can I have the ribeye? Su Lin inquired, perusing the hefty menu. You can order whatever you like, Claude reassured her. She opted for the ribeye, a loaded baked potato, and broccoli with cheese. What's this? I didn't order this, Su Lin queried when the waitress placed the endive salad in front of her. It comes with the meal. It's endive salad, Claude explained. On what? Su Lin chuckled at the unfamiliar word. Just try it, Claude playfully growled. Ooh, Daddy's getting mad, huh? Su Lin teased. But she did take a bite of the salad. Su Lin managed to finish her salad, 2 baskets of hot, hand-formed dinner rolls, as well as her steak, potato, and broccoli. Wow, where are you putting all that? Claude joked. Although the waitress mentioned desserts, Su Lin admitted that the last few bites had been a struggle. Claude settled the bill with his credit card and smiled at his lovely dinner companion. Meanwhile, Su Lin glanced around the lavish steakhouse, taking in the rich decor and elegant ambiance. Her expression turned slightly puzzled as she turned to Claude. Do you know that woman at your 4 o'clock? Su Lin asked discreetly. gesturing subtly toward Claude's right shoulder. Claude glanced around and spotted a scowling Inga and a bored Jerome. Yes, my dear Su Lin, he grinned widely. That's my ex-wife and her boyfriend. You have a thing for us blondes, huh? Su Lin grinned, playing with a lock of her blonde hair. But where's Charles? Claude suddenly wondered. The waitress returned and bid them good night. Claude settled the bill, kept the receipt, and helped Su Lin stand up. Back home, Claude brought the bags of clothes to his bedroom and made space in the closet for her. He also cleared out a dresser drawer, and she smiled as she put away her new clothes. Now, can you do something for me? Claude asked, his voice rough. Anything, Su Lin promised. Take your dress off, but keep the pantyhose on, Claude requested. Although she said she was Baptist, Su Lin agreed that God would be present at the Lutheran church, too. Some of Claude's acquaintances gave them a second glance as they entered Atonement Lutheran Church in Kimball, Louisiana. He nodded politely to them and spoke with Su Lin in quiet tones. Since the Corvette only had 2 seats, Su Lin didn't accompany Claude when he went to Inga's condo to pick up Charles. Inga put on a smile, but her eyes blazed as she talked to Claude. So, who was that little tramp I saw you with on Saturday? She muttered, as Charles picked up his toys from the living room floor. That was Su Lin, but she's not a tramp, Claude replied. But, where was Charles while you and your boyfriend were at the restaurant, huh? His sister was babysitting, Inga snapped, letting the boyfriend comment slide. Stepping outside, Inga's eyes widened at the sight of the classic car. Then they narrowed into mean little slits. You have enough money to buy this? She snapped. My lawyer will be very interested in hearing about this. What? Claude chuckled. No, this is Su Lin's car. See? I told you she's not a tramp. This is her car, Inga stammered, admiring the long, sleek vehicle. Cool, Charles exclaimed. It's very cool, Claude agreed, and buckled the child into the car seat. Charles and Su Lin's meeting couldn't have gone better. She smiled, hugged him tightly, then asked him to show her his room. In his room, Su Lin pretended she didn't know what his toy truck, crane, and backhoe did. Wow, Daddy, did you know you had such a smart little boy? Su Lin praised as she carried Charles to the kitchen for their supper. Yes, he's a genius, wonder kid, Claude enthused. But I bet he doesn't eat green beans, does he? Su Lin teased. Uh-huh, Charles confirmed and ate his string beans. He hates green beans, Claude confided to Su Lin. She was duly impressed by the electromagnet and ran around the small workshop, finding things for the device to pick up. At 8:30, Claude had to threaten them both with punishment before Charles would take his bath. I love you, Su Lin, Charles declared. Oh, well, I love you too, Charlie Iverneck, Su Lin smiled as she and Claude bathed the 4-year-old boy. Charles finally drifted off to sleep. Su Lin smiled as she entered the bedroom she shared with Claude. It was very sweet when he said he loves you, Claude remarked. Well, I love him too, Su Lin said. She pulled on her tank top sleep shirt and climbed into bed. I love Daddy too, she said, resting her head on his chest. A lot, she added. Claude frowned at her blonde head as she snuggled against him. They had met just over 72 hours ago. They had made love for the first time less than 63 hours ago. He ran his fingers through her long hair and she sighed happily. At work, Tough Richards admired the classic car. Then the CEO helped his head engineer cover it with a tarp. Looks like you're enjoying that bonus, Tough remarked. More than you'd know, Claude replied, smiling as they entered Kendrick's Engineering with Charles. At 11:49, Denise Lacombe paged for Claude. Sir, there's a girl here claiming she's your girlfriend, Denise whispered urgently through the intercom. Girlfriend? Tough asked as Denise relayed the message. Yeah, girlfriend, okay? The car isn't the only thing I got with the bonus, Mr. Nosy, Claude joked. Well, this I have to see, Tough said, rushing out of Claude's office. Hey, baby, Su Lin greeted with a smile as Claude burst into the reception area. Miss Corliss ran me out of the house, said I was in the way. So where are you taking me for lunch? She had her hair in a ponytail, wore khaki shorts and one of the tops Claude had bought her. On her feet, she had her usual flip-flops, which she dangled off one foot as she reached up for a kiss. Wow, Tough exclaimed. Just wow. Indeed. Tough Richards, this is my girlfriend, Su Lin Benning. Su Lin, meet Tough Richards. He's the CEO of the company. Claude introduced them. And for lunch, we'll eat in the lunchroom here. I'll join Charles. Oh, great, Su Lin said excitedly. Hi, Mr. Tough. Nice to meet you. Wow, Tough repeated and walked away. Hi, Su Lin, Charles greeted happily. Su Lin smiled as Charles showed her what he was working on and introduced her to his teachers at the factory's nursery. What do you want to eat? Su Lin asked, holding Charles's hand in the lunchroom. On Wednesday, Inga found an excuse to avoid seeing Charles. Claude was okay with it. He and Su Lin had planned to take Charles to the university's planetarium for a night showing. He had been about to call Inga to switch the plans to Thursday, so it wasn't until Friday that Inga Ivernek learned that her husband had a woman staying the night at his house. It wasn't until Friday that Inga heard about Su Lin, Daddy's girlfriend. Inga smiled and pretended to be interested in Charles's new friend, Daddy's new friend. But once Charles was asleep, Inga angrily dialed the number 7 on her phone. Yes, Claude answered. Su Lin took advantage of Claude's distraction and stole one of his shrimp scampi. Claude smirked as Su Lin looked triumphantly at him. Yes, Inga. What is it? Claude asked. He frowned and gestured to stop Su Lin from trying to steal another shrimp. She pouted but stopped. As soon as we're done, we need to go to Stepping Stone, Claude said, ending the call abruptly. Why? What's wrong? Su Lin asked, concerned. I need to get your birth certificate. I can't believe she's threatening to sue me for custody, Claude snapped. Why is she suing you for custody? Su Lin asked, searching in her purse. Because I have my lover, my girlfriend, living with me. She says it's a bad influence on our son, Claude explained, taking a forkful of his meal. Here, I grabbed it when I thought I was moving to Oak Ridge, Su Lin said, showing her birth certificate. Oakleaf, but that's great, Claude said, examining Su Lin's birth certificate. And she can't say her boyfriend never spends the night, right? Su Lin added, finishing her manicotti. Hands off my food, you little troublemaker, Claude demanded as she reached for his garlic bread. What? She laughed. What did you call me? Claude waved the waiter down, apologized, but requested the check. I'm really sorry, we're in a rush, he said. Of course, sir, the waiter responded. Why are we rushing? Su Lin asked, munching on garlic bread. And where did you get that? Claude asked, eyeing her bread. They gave it to me, Su Lin fibbed, pointing to another table. Su Lin? No, they didn't, Claude chuckled. Su Lin hurried to keep up with Claude. She felt relieved when they reached his car and she could stop and buckle up. They arrived at David's Jewelry on Highway 19. Su Lin looked at him as he rushed to the door. The door buzzed, and Claude held it open for Su Lin. Baby, what's going on here? Su Lin asked, glancing around at the jewelry counters. We need an engagement ring, Claude told David, the shop owner. We what? Su Lin gasped. Come on, we have an 11:30 flight to Las Vegas, Claude said as David unlocked a display case. We what? Su Lin gasped again. My second wedding was in Las Vegas, David mentioned. Claude, baby, are you serious? Su Lin asked, feeling lightheaded. I'm dead serious, Claude said. White gold? Yeah, white gold would be best, I think. We have these over here, a nice sapphire solitaire, David offered. Try it on, Claude insisted to Su Lin. It's a bit big, Su Lin noted. Let's see, David said, checking the ring's size. You're probably about a size 5, I guess, Su Lin agreed. But baby, are you really serious about this? I've never been more serious about anything in my life, Claude affirmed, nodding as David found another ring. Oh, that's beautiful, Su Lin exclaimed as she tried on the diamond and ruby ring. We have matching bands. What size ring do you wear? David asked. Stretch, Su Lin giggled, examining the ring in the shop's light. 12, sometimes 12.5, Claude replied, as Su Lin giggled. I must be losing my mind. I must be completely crazy, Claude thought, as he drove his powerful sports car toward Lafayette's small airport. Las Vegas is known as the wedding capital of the world. Within an hour of landing, Claude arranged for a videographer, photographer, minister, and chapel. He also found a beautiful gown for Su Lin and a nice tuxedo for himself. You'll be the best wife, I promise, Su Lin said tearfully, clutching her bouquet tightly. I believe you, and I'll be a good husband, Claude assured her with a smile. Can I throw out my birth control pills? Su Lin asked, just as the minister called them forward. I must be crazy, Claude smiled as the photographer took pictures. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today, the minister began, playing it up for the camera. They got a nice suite at the casino for $340. In Las Vegas, seeing a woman in a wedding gown and a man in a tuxedo without luggage isn't unusual. The desk clerk smiled knowingly and wished them a good night. In the lavish suite, Su Lin climbed onto the bed, showing Claude she was wearing white pantyhose. She dropped her bouquet as he joined her, his face between her legs. At first I kinda hated it, Su Lin admitted, her voice still strained. And now? Claude asked weakly, removing his tuxedo. Now? We're doing that again. I mean, I almost passed out when I came, Su Lin exclaimed. Oh boy, Claude chuckled. Let's shower together, okay? Oh boy, Su Lin giggled and hurriedly removed her dress. I think I'll enjoy being out of my mind, Claude smiled as Su Lin hugged him under the water, her head resting on his chest. What time are we leaving? Su Lin asked. The flight is at 12:19, Claude replied. Oh, so we have time to... Su Lin trailed off, turning and placing her hands against the shower wall. Yeah, we have time for a shower together, Claude agreed. Because she was shorter, he had to lift her off the shower floor. She squealed and laughed as he entered her. Neither climaxed, but they both enjoyed the closeness. Su Lin packed the wedding dress in its bag for their return flight. It was their only luggage, along with their wedding photos and discs. The flight attendant didn't ask for her ID as she poured them champagne to toast. Thank you, Su Lin smiled. Congratulations, sweetie, the attendant replied. At 6:30 Sunday evening, Claude arrived in his 1964 Corvette. Inga smiled smugly. Told you I won't let Charles be exposed to sin, Inga declared. What sin? Claude asked innocently. You're living with a woman, having closeness in my house, Inga accused. Yes, I'm having lots of closeness with Su Lin, Claude agreed, holding out his left hand. Inga's smile faded. You're not married. I have a ring, pictures, video, and a license. So I am married, Claude chuckled. Is my son ready? I don't believe you, and I won't let you have Charles, Inga shouted. Inga had already turned down the job at Babbage's department store. She had also instructed Jerome's cousin to file for child support. Both her condo payments and association fees were overdue, and she planned to request alimony. That Nicole Banks, she never asked for any of that, you know? The new attorney laughed. Inga watched her plans crumble. If Claude's claims were true, she had no chance of full custody, child support, or alimony. You have to let me have our son. I have custody, Claude stated firmly. If you don't, I'll call the police and show them the court papers. Realizing she had lost, Inga slammed the door and made Charles cry as she pulled him to the front door. Back at home, Su Lin comforted Charles. Then they played while Claude prepared dinner. After eating, Su Lin bathed Charles and dressed him. Both she and Charles called for Daddy, asking for a bedtime story. Before Claude could go to his office, Su Lin pulled him into their bedroom and closed the door softly. Is that the only reason we got married? Su Lin asked quietly. Claude was about to say yes, but then he saw her tears. He hugged her and kissed her head. Su Lin, I won't lie to you. A good husband doesn't lie to his wife, Claude said, kissing her head again. Then he did lie. Inga, my ex-wife, threatened to take Charles away from us, Claude said. But really, she pushed me to make a decision. He lifted her face to look at him. She said our love was sinful, but it's not. It's right and good. Marrying you is the best decision I've made. But the only reason, Su Lin started. The main reason, not the only reason, is because I'm crazy about you, Claude insisted. I'm in love with you. Inga may have pushed us, but she's not the only reason I asked you to marry me. Oh no, my mom! I forgot to tell my mom, Su Lin exclaimed suddenly. Claude watched as his wife hurried to the phone, punching in numbers quickly. Mama, it's me, Su Lin said after some impatient waiting. No, I'm not asking for money, she clarified. Listen, Mama, just listen, okay? Su Lin's cheerful expression turned into a frown of anger. Claude couldn't hear the conversation, but he could tell from Su Lin's tense posture and the sharp sounds from the phone that it wasn't pleasant. Mama, hold on a sec so I can explain, Su Lin snapped. More arguing echoed from the phone. I'm married, Mama. No, I'm not pregnant, but I am married, Su Lin stated firmly. After listening for a bit more, she hung up the phone and stared at it. But don't worry, Mama, Su Lin spoke to the silent receiver. I love him, he loves me, and we'll be just fine, got it? Turning to Claude, she walked over slowly, arms open. We'll be okay, right? She asked. Yeah, we'll be just fine, Claude reassured her.